My pronouns are USA. How about it, huh?
My name is Ted Cruz, and my pronouns are kiss my ass.
My pronouns are kiss my ass.
My personal preferred pronouns are fried chicken and collard greens.
And my pronouns are patriot and ass kicker.
My pronoun is American. I don't know about you.
That's
right?
a good one.
And my pronouns are I won.
My pronouns are he and haw, so I'm not really sure. First of all, my pronouns are he and haw, so I'd like for you to address me that way from now on.
My pronouns are Bible believer, Jesus lover, gun carrier.
My preferred pronouns are Brad and Pitt.
My pronouns are Bud and Light.
My pronoun is what the f***?
I'm a conspiracy theorist. My pronouns are told you so.
I identify as a conspiracy theorist, and my pronouns are I told you so.
Right.
My name is Larry. My pronouns are please God and make it stop.
Respect my pronouns or I will stab you.
Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. My name is Tom Gouker. I am your host. Normally, we chat about music. We're on episode 10 of 14, limited run edition called Kinda Free, Kinda Now. Laurie Greene is an associate professor of anthropology at Stockton University in New Jersey, where she has taught since 1986. She is the founder and chair of the LGBTQ Youth Safe Space Initiative at Stockton University and is an advocate for local LGBTQ community and the author of Drag Queens and Beauty Queens, Contesting Femininity in the World's Playground. We had fun getting to know each other, and it seems like we have shared experiences but different results. Music is by D Light from the 1990 epic called World Click. Songs are by Bobby Short, and you can binge. You get ahead of the releases. This link is in the show notes, and it's found everywhere. Let's get into it.
There's a fragrance that's here today, and they call it Charlie. A different fragrance that thinks your way, yeah, they call it Charlie. Kinda young, kinda now, Charlie. Kinda free, kinda wild. Kinda free, kinda wild. Kinda free, kinda wild. Charlie, kinda fragrance that's gonna stay, and it's here now. Charlie.
Charlie by Revlon, a most original fragrance.
There's a couple things I want to get into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, we always talk about your relationship stuff because you veer off of it so fast. So I always, I want to get it in at the beginning, which is, and it's just more of an observation.
Yeah.
When I was coming out, I saw elder, like gay people, and I would say, do you ever think you're going to be in a relationship? And they're like, no. Do you ever want to be in another relationship? They're like, no. And I was like, why? Love is love. And don't you want to be a part of it? They're like, no. and I now understand like why they were saying that. It'd be by the levels of the complexity of it is that sometimes like your peace of mind is used solo. And it would be hard to throw another person into that dynamic with all the baggage that we were talking about before in previous conversations. But do you remember, like I now understand like women who never marry or who just, you're like, oh, poor woman, she's never married, blah, blah, blah. She's probably the happiest person in the world.
That's probably right. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a really difficult person at this point in my life to partner with because I'm extremely independent. I like to be able to do, what I want at this point in my life, when I want. I don't really have the energy for negotiating anymore. But if it came along and it fell in my lap and it was right, I wouldn't be unhappy. I just think at a certain age, you sort of stop looking, some of us, and you just realize, I've got a ton of friends, and that's great. Like, I love my friends are my family. I adore them. And, they fulfill most of my needs, except for one big one, really. All my needs can be fulfilled by my friends. So, it becomes a thing where how much energy and time am I going to invest in this thing that I don't even know I need?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it sort of goes.
Now, for me, I mean, obviously testosterone level dropped, so my interest level dropped, and I want to be a A1 performer. I'm probably graded a C- or D. So, it was like, okay.
So hard on yourself.
No, there's a story. I love telling stories because the community is so small that it was told to me by someone it was told to me by a friend of mine, by a person I've never met before, that like there was times that I had performance issues, and so someone like went to that person, told that story about me, and then that person went and has been telling that story religiously for the last like 11 years. So.
Well, it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to that. I mean,
because there got to be, and
why?
It's none of their business, but how people act like it is. So for that reason, I don't just have to like connect with a partner. I got to connect with a wide audience that are sitting on the sideline, make sure that they know that I'm hitting home runs every single time.
I mean, I never understand people who are deliberately cruel. I will never get it. I mean, we all do things, we all make mistakes, we all hurt people, but most of us don't mean it. We don't try to do that. And, it's always interesting to me when somebody feels like they have to do that, like saying something nasty about somebody or undermining somebody. Is a very interesting behavior to me. And I can only imagine that the reason they do it is because they're very unhappy, and so it's like you want to spread that unhappiness around. You don't like somebody that looks like they're happy. Mm-hmm. They become a threat to you, even if probably they're not happy all the time, but they become a threat to you because they're not. And it's sad. Because I do see a lot of it in our community. And, I always say there's no drama like gay drama, because it's like, and it's a shame, that has to be the case. And I do think it's because we're very small and we know each other, and, we've all had some sort of interaction or relationship with one another by and large. And I feel like maybe some people think there's some sort of competition going on, and I think that's always interesting in any kind of relationship because nobody wins those. There's never a winner, but I feel like there's some people that think there is a winner, and that's sort of how they go about managing their relationships with people. And I don't like it. I don't like it because I don't like competition in general. I mean, period. That's just part of my personality. But I also truly don't think a relationship can possibly be a competition and everybody involved not turn out to be the loser in that case.
That's a new concept, though, about relationships and winning and losing. Like if someone wins, then that means someone loses, and you're trying to have a conversation or negotiate some stuff. That just opened up. Like I've just heard that actually by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, where he said, I never fought with Terry because that means that someone would lose. We're a partnership and we're trying to get to the next point. And I was like, wow, that's profound. I don't know if he created that, but I love Jimmy Jam.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, that sounds like a healthy relationship to me. I had never heard it put that way either. Yeah. But it's not a competition. It's supposed to be a mutual aid society, and that's really what it's supposed to be. But, again, we were talking about this early on, but I think, we all have a sense of being inadequate in some way. And I think sometimes when we have those feelings, we blame our partners, we take it out on we see it as projected as a failing of our partner rather than our own problems with our, self-esteem or feelings of security or feelings of being enough, and I do think that's why people fight.
Yeah. Well, I think in the gay community, what brought to my mind is something that I say all the time is like, I would used to be Chum Lee's singer's ex, and he's from Philly. He's kind of like a pillar over there. He created Gay Bingo actually back in the 90s, and made money off of it for the AIDS fund, So he always told me that the gay people always feel that they could do it better. Like when it comes to arts and stuff, that, well, I could do this better, but they're not putting themselves out. It's easier to criticize because they could do it better. When I did Be Visible, a female who I knew said, you need to have a girls Be Visible, like a lesbian version of Be Visible. And I said, no, I don't need to, but you can do this and I'll support you. I said, I don't need to create another thing to make you happy, but if you want to create one, let's do it. But, it's that thing where a lot of people are just really critical because in their back of their mind, they're like, I could run this better. I could do this better.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and sometimes, they will step up to the plate. And I like when I see that, but the critique of it instead of the support when they're, that's the one person that's doing something, a small group of people that are trying to do something.
Yeah.
And you have to catch hell from it, because it's not exactly what somebody else had in mind. That's just unfortunate, but again, I think, big fish, little fish bowl, I do think that there's some of that going on, and to some people, social capital and power is really important. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of that picking on other people is about gaining that social capital.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking I knew that I was gay young, but I also knew that my life had to have some kind of value. Like, what kind of value will I create? So I need people to realize that, okay, I'm not probably doing the marriage and the kids thing, but I'm going to be socially active, or I'm going to do this. I think that the importance of gay people's work or their events that they're in are heightened because, that's what becomes a part of who they are. This is who I am, instead of I'm Tom Gouker, but I also do X, Y, and Z, and I enjoy it, as opposed to the work is more important. And I think that dominates it. A lot of people who work at the White House and at the Capitol are gay, tons of them, because they're willing to sacrifice their life to attach all this to it. So I'm definitely generalizing, but that's a great position for someone who wants to do what I had said. They connect their job to the importance of who they are.
Yeah, I used to think that was a man thing, but I think it's a woman thing now too, what you're talking about. The sort of identifying with what you do as who you are, It's funny because I was talking to a friend about this, and I know somebody who I can't quite figure out why I don't like them a lot. I mean, I like them enough, but something's niggling about them. And I realize it's because they walk around saying, I'm a blank, in this case, dancer. I'm a dancer. I'm a dancer. instead of I dance, and it's an interesting, when you sort of make what you do who you are, it says interesting things about how you perceive yourself, yeah, I mean, if I say I'm an anthropologist, it's a little bit different than if I say I do anthropology or I study cultures, or, it just makes you more, I guess, your status more pronounced in having that, identity as that occupation, I guess. But there is a weird sound to it sometimes but yeah, I think women do it now too. I think, when I was younger, it was mostly men who would attach themselves to their jobs, probably because they had better jobs. But yeah, I see it all over now, and I think it's an American thing too.
Yeah. I have a theory. Can I do a theory?
Yeah.
Okay. People were making money, and then when that housing thing crashed, I guess in 2007, 2008, 2009. If you notice, like, people were really afraid of losing their jobs because the housing market was crashing. But I noticed the stock market increased, like people above were making money. And I was like, how's this working where we're devastating like the middle America right now, like just devastating them. And they're making profits. And I kind of watched the stock market as it went through. And it's the scare tactic that still works now in America, where like we can't have more people to work. You need to work more. You need to work longer. You need to work with more stress. We don't have health care. Or remember, they weren't giving out raises for a couple of years, and people were like, yeah, I got to do what I got to do. I can't lose these jobs. So what I always think that people are dancing faster and harder to make things work. And, the American dream of this, like, kind of creating money has really shrunk and has become something different. A lot of people get burned out. Like, I think I would always attach myself to a career until I didn't have one. And I can tell you I was depressed for years because I'm like, I'm just a nobody. I'm a retail manager. I was embarrassed to say I just need this job because I don't have any other job to go to. Took a really long time to say, okay, well, that's okay. And you need to continue your life, or, you're always going to have your head down. So that's a really long story. But I feel that was the breaking point, because I've talked to a lot of people who were so scared about losing their job at that time period, and it never ended. Like, that fear that's put into America is like, you can be pulled out at any time, and you could be, this job can go away.
Yeah, I feel like the tech industry is feeling that right now, where it used to be like tech jobs. Like, you went to school for tech and it was like you had a job, like you had a career for the rest of your life. And now all of a sudden the tech sort of industry is shrinking, and all these people that thought they had a sure thing are now frightened, that their job sector isn't going to be there anymore. And yeah, maybe that has something to do with why we do it. But like, I'm comparing, because I've worked in France a number of times this year, and right now they're having a strike. I mean, the whole country is in uproar because the President Macron raised the retirement age, I think, to 64.
From 62.
From 62. But even more so, the problem really is that there's a minimum years of work requirement. And I think it's 40. I'm not quite sure now what the minimum years are, but that's what people are upset about, because a lot of people were, especially women, might have been home raising kids, and they didn't get 40. They might work their whole life, but they didn't get 40 years in, between taking off for taking care of family, which is usually something a woman's doing rather than a man, or just people that were out of work and tried to get a job but couldn't, and so what they're really saying is, whether we are taken care of or not when we're older should have nothing to do with who we are as workers, and you can contrast that to the United States, where there's still a lot of people, and I hear them that go, oh, well, you don't deserve health insurance if you don't work. And I'm like, a lot of people work and don't have health insurance, right? Like, they don't see it as a right, they see it as a privilege for working. It's one of the, you work and that's why you get it. And it's just such a different way of thinking about the value of work, and if it makes a person or not, if your job makes a person. And I just think it's a fairly striking difference between here and at least France and Europe.
You know, as I get older, you know, I don't have that nest egg, and it's very concerning as to, like, I bought this house because I'm like, it's cheaper than rent. It's definitely going to be money that I can count on, or I can pay this off as fast as I can so I can not have rent when I retire, or if I don't assume I'm going to retire. There's no way I can retire. But even these healthcare packages that you do get, they're junk ones. You know, the deductibles are so high and what they cover is so minimal that you say, oh, I have healthcare, but you don't really, when you have to pay out like the deductible $2,000 each year. So if I had something that was, you know, continually a problem, that's $20K in 10 years that I'm out because my healthcare won't cover it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole this is a whole like day of our, you know, just complaining about how bad our healthcare system is. I mean, you mean I'm complaining about it, or just in general?
I
mean, just in general. Like I had a really profound experience where I realized just how, and I'm just going to say it, pathetic the way we think about healthcare is, when my very, very good friend who lived in Cornwall, she's passed away. She's a single woman. And she had a big farm with horses on it. It's called the Yoga Farm. I used to teach for her at her place. And she never went to the doctor. She was one of those people, a very independent, strong-headed person. And then she discovered she had stage 4 colon cancer. And so I was really concerned about her because I know that she's alone, you know, and has these big dogs to take care of, and all her horses and her farm and this big place that she had. And I called my friend, Ed, who lives in London. And I said, I'm flying in and we're going to drive down and we're going to go see Liz and make sure she's okay. And I got there to find out that, you know, she had somebody coming 3 days a week to clean her house. She had somebody coming 5 days a week to cook for her. There were people taking care of the farm. They brought the medications to her house and were medicating her, you know, palliatively at the house. I mean, she was being taken care of because that's what they do with their healthcare system. And I thought to myself, do you know what I'd be doing the last weeks of my life? I'd be fighting with the insurance company.
Yep.
I would be on the phone knowing I had a few weeks left, fighting with the insurance company so my kids wouldn't be saddled with a bill, knowing that when I go, that my kids would still be fighting with the insurance company. I can't think of anything crueler, like a less humane situation than people who are dying, having to fight with their insurance company, you know, or else being saddled with these, you know, these astronomical bills that no one will ever pay off just to die. You know, yeah. I can't think of anything more insane than that. But people here seem to think that that's normal, you know, and that's just, yeah, well, we have the best healthcare system in the world. No, we don't.
Yeah.
It's
very anxiety. I mean, I'm very anxious about healthcare and the lack of it or the quality of it.
Yeah, that doesn't help your health at all either.
No, you're right. I know it's like, please don't get sick, but at the same time, there were talks that this is how I went to multiple doctors. We get different jobs, you get different healthcare. So I went to multiple doctors. One doctor said you have cancer. They said you have prostate cancer, and we're going to do more tests. And then they're like, well, maybe you do or maybe you don't. They weren't clear. And then I went to another doctor. And I said, they're saying that I have cancer. And they're like, yeah, you have cancer. And then they did another test. They said, no, it's not conclusive. We'll just keep on watching it. And I was like, they're like, well, you know that you can have prostate cancer for 20 years and still live. Like that's my option, really. I had a friend, Bill, from Atlantic City, who had stage 4 brain cancer. He found out he had it at stage 4, and he had all these health problems and always went into doctors, and no one ever said, oh, by the way, you know, this is coming up in your test. So the stage 4 just hits you, in the face when you're like in the doctor's office every week anyways. And they gave him an option of this 10% treatment that may work, that was so debilitating on his body that he's like, I'll go for it. Like he wanted to live, it's like, why wouldn't he want to live? So he went for it, and then it was so painful because it didn't help him at all. And he's like, wow, I just kind of wasted all this time thinking that I had opportunity of living more, and it just didn't work out. And then he was hospice driven, and he was in his front of his living room. He couldn't go anywhere, so he was just there. It was weird. It was my first person that I saw that went to pass, and it was new to me, like where I got to kind of witness it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's always hard. And this is something that, my friends and I talk about as we get older, and you start experiencing what you might have seen your parents experience, which is like your friends start dying, and it's really, it's horrible. It's a hard thing to wrap your head around, to know that it's only going to be more, it's going to happen more and more and more. And, when we're younger, we don't think about our mortality in the same way, luckily, unless we are forced to, because we have a friend that dies young, and that's, we're never forced to look at our mortality like that. And, but yeah, and it will just happen more and more, right? I mean, it will. And I don't know. I think that's one reason why, the AIDS, epidemic was so profound for me, was, because we got a sense of that as young people, just having to deal with death at such a young age isn't normal, and that was one of the things about AIDS, which was so profound.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how could he at stage 4 brain cancer handle these bills, or not bills? I hate those ones that get mailed to you saying, this is not a bill. And you're like, what is it?
Right?
And then all of a sudden you get this mammoth, like, Excel spreadsheet kind of chart. I mean, and it's constant billing, and you're like, okay, 20% is going to be covered, 80% is going to be covered. You owe this. It's really amazing. It's just, it's mind blowing. And then I have sometimes I have ideas, but I don't understand why, like, we have to fight for prescriptions where you have to go get an app and download it and try to figure out where the pharmacy is that you go get the best deal. But at the same time, you have to kind of create an account at every single pharmacy. So it's not like you can't go to your corner pharmacy. You have to set up accounts with 20 pharmacies to find the best price for you. And then
it's absurd.
Yeah. And I was like, well, why, like, bodies change. The epidemic with the Sackler family gave out pills unnecessarily that were high level.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh was addicted to it. Please say the name of it.
Oxycodone?
There you go. So, is it Oxycontin or Oxycodone?
Well, Oxycodone, I think, is the drug, and Oxycontin, I think, is the brand, but I'm not certain. Yeah. So
I wonder if you could, I know that they say your health thing is vital and it's just between you and your doctor, but they're ripping through you, and you're lucky if you have 10, 15 minutes before they go to the next person. If there was a database that had all your previous exams, blood works, whatever, and then along with the pills that you're taking, and then create these algorithms, these AI algorithms that says, okay, for your age and your body and your weight, you shouldn't have these milligrams. So you should knock it down. Like, sometimes I think that my mom is shrinking. I see her every day. She gets smaller and smaller. But she's still taking these horse pills that she was taking years ago. And I'm like, along with the pills that are newly subscribed to her, she's like doing a cocktail every day. And I'm like, maybe they shouldn't be this strong. Like, as you get older, your body can't handle that. Like it's like a stress on your body. But the only way that you could really kind of get that is have that drug database where, they're running algorithms and shoots it to the doctor and say, hey, you may want to cut back their milligrams, or send it to the person and say, I think you need to cut down on some of your milligram suggestions,
Yeah, I think that the problem with our healthcare, and I hate to be like reductionist like this, it's just that our healthcare system is a for-profit system. It's a business. So now I go to my nose, ear, and throat person, and they also do plastic surgery, and so does my GYN. My gynecologist does like weight loss and skin treatments and permanent tattooing, and permanent makeup, and it's just like, what is this? But if they feel like they're not making enough money giving you care, they add these now adjacent sort of practices. They add on these practices that are elective things, that aren't really central to your health. And it's really embarrassing that they're doing that to me. But doctors expect to make a certain amount of money in this country, and until we stop that, we're never going to have the health care that we should, because they're going to care more about the business of medicine than they are about medicine.
I went to, this is when I was in Atlantic City, and I needed, I was like, I need a shot in my knee, cortisone, just because I have arthritis. There's definitely nothing wrong with the knee, but underneath the kneecap, there's irritation. And so I started getting a couple of them, and the doctor would come in, and just his visit, which was all I wanted was a shot, he would charge me $125, and it wasn't covered by my insurance. And I said, please, I just need another shot. I don't need to see the doctor. We've already identified that that's what I was going to get. So don't charge me that $125. Please don't make him do a consultation. So I've said it over and over and over. And of course, I just got the shot from like a nurse, and I still got that consultation fee. They said, this is a part of the service. That you elect not to do it doesn't negate the fact that we won't charge you.
It's part of what it costs to get a shot.
Yeah, it's a part of the full package. You just said that you wouldn't take the full package. That's all.
Yeah, it's scary, right?
I was like, oh my God. And yeah, it's rough. Yeah, we're at 8 minutes left. And before we kind of switch off, there was one thing I wanted to talk about, which was no TV. No TV in the house. And I love the fact that you do that. And I have a love-hate, more hate about television. I wanted to talk a little more about how you decide not to have a TV in there.
All right, you want to talk about it now? Yeah, so, well, I really, I think I said before, I really like the quiet when I'm home. And so I don't feel the need to have like TV on or the radio on or anything like that. I think most stuff, now there's a lot of really good TV now. When years ago, when I sort of went, yeah, I do not need a television, ever. There might've been 200 channels on, but there was nothing good on anyway. I'm not a sports fan. I don't watch sports. I guess that's one reason to have a television. If I want to watch something occasionally, a documentary, I can always watch it on my computer. And I sometimes do, if I find a series on Netflix occasionally, maybe twice a year, I might binge watch it, or something like that. So it's not that I don't watch any TV per se. I watch very little, but I don't put I don't have a television screen. I don't put it on, just for the noise in the house. Mostly everything, like I said, I want to see, I can get on demand.
Yeah.
And in terms of movies, I'm one of these old fashioned people. I just went yesterday. I love going to movie theaters.
Me too.
When I want to see something, I'd rather go to the movies. And now I have a theater right near me that I can walk to. So, I'll just go in the middle of the day. Like it was raining yesterday and I went and saw, Chevalier, about the violinist, the French violinist.
How was that?
I thought it was great. I really liked it. It was between that and Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, which was very nostalgic for me. Being that book was important to me when I was a kid. But I opted for what I thought was the adult movie. But it doesn't mean I won't go see that, because I'll just go because I like to watch movies. But in the movie theater, I like it, so I get the whole effects of the film.
I think a lot of people like having the TV on all the time just is that noise that just fills your head. It's always on. And I think that turning it off for me was a big deal. I actually lived in Philly, and I took the TV after football season. I put a Post-it note, and I was in an apartment complex, and I said, please do not touch. I'll pick this back up in September. And I withdrew, from having that TV on, where now I can not have it on for days. And if I do, it's like South Park in the background or something. Something's minor, but I get my TV fix from podcasts, from shows. The only two shows I was addicted to that ended, that I'm officially done with being addicted, is This Is Us and Better Call Saul. And now that they're done, I don't feel like I have to follow anything. And I know that there's so many great things going on, and I may choose to pick them up later, but I'm not. I know that there's Succession and some other things that people are raving about, and I'm okay not to know about it right now.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my son is a playwright, and he writes also for television. So when his series, he did Octavia Butler's Kindred. He was the writer on that, and when it came out on Hulu, of course, I didn't have a TV. I was in Europe, where you can't even get Hulu. and I'm like, how am I going to watch my son's show? And then people are like, Laurie, don't you know about a VPN? I'm like, a VP what? I don't, this is how stupid I am about technology. And I downloaded a VPN, and I got Hulu in Europe, and I watched his show. My daughter has a subscription, so I just used hers. So it was, you find a way to do it. But I do think it's ironic that my son is in television, and I don't watch any of it.
Yeah.
But I will if he writes it. If he's got a major credit on it, I'll take a look at it. I'll watch it.
Just by growing older, there was 101 Interesting People from Time last night, the TV show, and they have the TVs on at work, and they keep on flashing the audience that was in the crowd. I'm like, I don't recognize any of these faces. I don't know any of these people. I said, I feel good. I don't this is very incidental that I don't need to follow these celebrities. I don't know who any of these people are that are in this audience clapping or talking. I know they were talking about Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I always say I'm a pop culture idiot, which is funny because I often write about things in pop culture. But in general, I don't have a diet where I can stay on top of things, I don't have any interest in it. Shockingly, I've only watched RuPaul's Drag Race a few times. And I found it pretty uninteresting, so I didn't turn it back on. Shockingly. For someone that studies drag, I guess I like the real thing more than the television version of the sort of real relationships instead of the concocted reality TV relationships, especially since I knew some of the folks on it, and I knew that they were really good friends in real life.
Yeah.
And the way they pit them against each other and stuff is sort of odd.
There's it's a little different now, but you're right. It's I have friends that see the show and they think that that's what a drag show is like. And I'm like, no, it's completely different. I said, in real life, I said, there are this whole RuPaul, industry, and it's, that's something completely different. Vegas shows and touring RuPaul groups coming around. They're different than what reality is. And it's so much better to be with a group of people and laughing and having fun versus sitting in a theater and watching a performance. I mean, They're both enjoyable, but I think that I would prefer the one with with people. We're down to like less than a minute.
Yeah. All right. I'll meet you on the other side then.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clown. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps tearing around, one who can't move. Where are the clowns? Send in the clowns. Just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair. Sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you would want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clowns? Quick, send in the clowns. Don't bother, they're here. Just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair. Sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you would want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clowns? Quick, send in the clowns. Don't bother, they're here. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. And where are the clowns? There ought to be clowns. Well, maybe next
Episode 10 is finished. Next episode is episode 11.